This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for August 8th. 2024. This is season 14, episode number 1 of the Power Play Post Show. This is episode 440 of the long-running podcast. It is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everybody. I am Bob Howard. I am your host. Welcome to our season 14 debut episode. And do we have a beauty? We've kind of stacked things up. We're giving you a nice, big, long show to talk about hockey for you guys to listen to it. I don't know how long it's eventually going to end up being. It probably depends on how much I talk in this first segment, which I don't have a lot to talk about. So I just want to go over just a couple things and everything. But we have 3 great guests here on the show. 2 from the Binghamton Black Bears, and 1 is a PTO signee for the Danbury Hat. So we're really excited about that. And to have Taylor on the show was just great. To get to know her a little bit was even better. And I hope you guys get to know her just a little bit better as well. The first episode of season 14, why is it August 8th? Well, August 8th, we're just on the back half of the summer break, right? We're closer to the start of the regular season here in the Federal Prospects Hockey League and for the Binghamton Black Bears, the team that I obviously cover and whatnot. I know there's going to be a lot of people listening from other markets for this show, just for the simple fact that Taylor is on, and I really do appreciate that. I do try to give a little bit of coverage to teams outside of the Binghamton Black Bears, but this is where I am. This is my credentialed home, so to speak, here in the single-A hockey world. It is with the Binghamton Black Bears and, of course, Binghamton, New York. And, of course, I run and operate BinghamtonHockey.net, which basically archives the history of Binghamton hockey. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. It's really great, and I do plan on having people from other markets here in the Federal Prospects Hockey League. I've been talking to Brett Wiseman, and he wants to come back on the show, so we're going to have him back on. There are a lot of great things going on right now with the Blue Ridge Bobcats. So it's very cool that we're going to have him back on to talk about the new seeding, some of the players that are coming in. I think they're going to have a great second season in Blue Ridge. So I'm excited to have him on. You'll probably hear from Brett Wiseman sometime in September, which will be pretty cool. There's still some more work to do on the seating there at the new arena or the arena that they're really building the arena from the ground up, almost essentially. Even though the building has been there, they're kind of doing all the infrastructure inside here in the off season. They did a lot of work before the start of the first season, and now they're doing even more work. So that's going to be pretty cool. And there are other guests that I have planned through the latter half of the summer. So we're on the latter half and everything, right? We're in August now, right? And September 21st or right around that time period, that's when the autumn begins. And we really start ramping up and getting excited for hockey. There's already been some camps. I know Blue Ridge just finished their free agent camp, and I know there's going to be other camps that are going to be coming up. So hockey is getting underway. People are starting to think about it. People are being signed all over the place. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think everyone is going to be very excited. All right, so episode number 1, season 14. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate all of the support that I've gotten, and the players who've come on this show. Thank you so much. I really do enjoy getting to know a lot of you, and I just think it's going to be a great season 14. I'm going to have a lot more players on, maybe even a few from a couple of the other markets if I can get some of the the PR guys behind that, and to do that, that'd be great. Taylor, technically being associated with the Danbury Hat Tricks, this is my first connection with them. Even though we really talked mostly about Taylor and her youth hockey and getting to the point where she is right now, didn't really talk much about Danbury. It is something that I hope to be able to delve into a little bit. Again, my priority is always going to be Binghamton. It's always going to be Binghamton hockey. It's always going to be the Black Bears. But I do like to talk to pretty much anybody that will allow me to get their phone number, give them a call, put them on a speaker, and give you their story, which is really what I enjoy to do. Okay, the Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Now, the cool thing about the YouTube stuff that we're going to do during the season, there are going to be special things that I'm going to do that has a visual impact of it. That's why we had Chloe Dutcher from Fox 40 create us a new intro for basically the YouTube channel. So I cannot wait to start working on that a little bit as well. And you guys should see that. Now, if you go to our YouTube page, you will see that intro, which is pretty cool. She did a good job. And I must say the guy in there, he's pretty handsome. But please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. We just got over 500 members. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we did that. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. So if you're not a member of our group, go ahead and do that. I try to post a couple things a day. Sometimes during the summertime, it's hard to get two or three things posted in a day because there's not much to talk about except for the new signees, like yesterday when Austin Thompson, which I may have hinted a few times that he was probably going to be signing, and we talked to him on the show a couple weeks ago. Obviously, that is on there. And we're doing a countdown now. The countdown is pretty cool, right? I'm taking some pictures that I've taken, putting on how many days are left, and it's there really for everyone to kind of see some of the pictures that I took, and also have a fun thing to get behind, and like the countdown, or just keeps that memory. We're at 65 days now here on Thursday, so that's pretty cool. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. There's a lot of stuff on there, a lot of stats about the Black Bears on there as well, which I know people like Brooks Hill listen to or read and use during the broadcast. On this edition of the Power Play Post Show, we've already kind of hinted at a little bit, but we have from the Danbury Hat Tricks, she signed a PTO. Netminder Taylor Schwandt is on the show. Our good friend from the Black Bears, Brooks Hill, will be on as well. I sat in the office with him last week to talk about some of the summer activities. So it's pretty cool that he's here. And yesterday, on Wednesday, I interviewed Black Bears forward Blake Tosto. Now, what's great about Blake, he has a master's degree in business administration, and he did that in 4 years at Lebanon Valley College. So it's amazing what some of these kids are doing. They're like getting their master's degree. They're getting college 4-year degrees at the same time playing either professional hockey or college hockey, and it's great that they do that. One of the best things that Brant Sherwood has done is that he's gone out and he's not just getting good skilled hockey players. He's getting good overall men who are making a difference in the world by going out and getting a degree. And maybe some people would say that college is over expensive these days. But these are smart kids. They're using their brains. That's why this team last year was very good. In the end, they had the hockey IQ, and they just had the ability and the mental fortitude and that skill that got them through. So very excited about our 3 guests. Now, not every show is going to have 3 guests, everybody. Taylor, Brooks, and Blake, this is special. This is season 14, the episode, the number 1 episode last year, season 13, episode 1. We were at Media Day, right? We'll be at Media Day in a couple months and everything, but Media Day we talked to three people and had them on, maybe even 4 if I remember correctly. So this is not abnormal, but we did a full interview with Taylor, a full interview with Blake, and then me and Brooks, we just can't shut up sometimes, right? So we just keep going, but good stuff all around for everybody. Okay, So the only topic I want to talk about is let's go through the roster again, right? Because the roster, people are signing and jumping on board. We already know that Tyson Kirkby, Jesse Anderson, Dakota Bond, Dan Stone, and Connor McAnanama are re-signed. Blake Tosto came back. He'll be our guest a little bit later on in this show. Josh Fletcher was a part of the trade with Blue Ridge, and he's going to be back. He was received in a trade from Blue Ridge for Matthew Billard. Fletcher was picked up in the expansion draft by the Bobcats. Okay, so since then, Nolan Egbert has signed back on, right? So we have two of the best goaltenders last year in the Fed are back with the Black Bears. Cam Clark, who also did very similar to what Blake Tosto did, is finishing up his college degree and came in. Scott Ramakers, Dan Weber also re-signed. We're going to have him on hopefully in a couple more weeks to talk to him a little bit more and maybe have a little bit of fun with Dan because he was voted the most funniest guy in the locker room. Austin Thompson, that was yesterday's signing. 56 goals, 56 assists for 112 points in 2 seasons. He had 56 points in both seasons, and he just kind of had like 29 goals and 27 assists. And last year he had 27 goals and 29 assists. So, and he changed his position. He was more in front of the net more last year than he was the year before that. Cam Saravone from SUNY Geneseo, obviously signed. He's one of the rookies, and Nick Stuckless. That's 14 players already that the Binghamton Black Bears have signed. I know there's another one coming tomorrow on Friday, so it'll be very interesting. I know who it is. I'm going to keep it as quiet as I can. We'll talk about it in a couple weeks when we do another show. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to go over the update on the rosters. There's really nothing else in Binghamton that's happening right now. I know Austin Thompson was out earlier this week at a benefit doing charity thing with other hockey players, which is pretty cool. He kind of filled me in the net because it was somebody that was on the show previously back in the AHL days of me doing the show. He was with Seth Griffin from the Bruins organization. So pretty cool stuff there. I know a lot of the players are training and working hard. I've talked to Nolan Egbert. He's training. Blake Tosto talks about a bit of his training in the interview that we have with him. But we're going to start off with an interview that I really want you guys to listen to. I really do believe that there are changes in the women's game for professional hockey and probably even professional basketball for that matter, right? The WNBA has obviously picked up a couple ladies out of college that I think are changing the game. Well, I think women's professional hockey with the PWHL really having a good year, and I like a lot of what they did this past year and what they're probably going to do and hopefully continue to grow the women's game. It is amazing the conversation that we had with Taylor Schwandt, and you're going to hear this in just a little bit, and it's a very good story. This is a story I want you guys to hear. She played against men's and boys almost her whole career, and there was only a few times because there hasn't been these opportunities. There hasn't been enough girls, even from Philadelphia, where she's from, Westchester, in the suburbs of Philadelphia. She didn't have a lot of chances to play on just all girls teams. There wasn't many of them, and she talks about this. So if she wanted to play hockey, she was playing with the boys. She was on a high school team that won 3 championships. So if you don't think bringing her into the Danbury Hat, she's already got confidence. She's already got the winning mentality. She understands it because she's been on teams that have done it. And I don't care if you've played a lot of games, not played a lot of games. When you're around championship type seasons like she was in high school, it carries you through in some ways about character and about the way you think about the game, your preparation. You know what things have to be done. It's a great interview. I hope you guys really enjoy it with Taylor. We'll talk to Brooks Hill after Taylor, and then we'll end this great season 14 episode 1 debut with our friend Blake Tosto, who I absolutely cannot wait to talk to again and have him back here on the show. So enjoy these interviews. Thank you. This is my passion. I love doing these interviews. I really do enjoy that aspect of doing the show and everything, is getting to talk to all these kind of people, from Brooks to Blake to Taylor. It's really a pleasure to do that, and I hope you enjoy listening to their stories a little bit. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, she signed a PTO for camp with the Danbury Hat Tricks. I'm rooting her on. I'm very excited for her and for Mariah, who also is a female goalie who's also signed on with the Danbury Hat Tricks of the PTO. But we talked to Taylor, and that's coming up next right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I am very excited to have this young lady with us to talk about her story and about her journey so far in minor pro hockey and basically just, her time from getting into hockey up till now. She comes to us from, as she's recently just signed a PTO with the Danbury Hat Tricks, Taylor Schwandt. Taylor, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on. We've talked for a few minutes before we started recording here, and it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much, Bobby. I'm really happy to be here.
Taylor, it's kind of an interesting story, obviously. The Danbury Hat Tricks, obviously, within a couple days of each other, announced having 2 female goalies coming to their camp in October and everything. How excited are you about this? I have to imagine this is a pretty important, life moment for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, extremely excited. Honestly, any above excitement, just gratitude and feeling ready to take on an opportunity. I feel like it's something I've really worked towards, especially in the past several years that I've had my sights set on playing professionally. So obviously excitement, but above all else, just gratitude and kind of going in with that tunnel vision of wanting to show out and be my best self.
Now, if you make the team and you're playing, some of these games here, you do realize Danbury is one of the toughest arenas to play in the Fed, correct?
That's what I've heard, but sometimes I tend to take those things with a grain of salt because I grew up playing around some pretty large crowds, especially in high school, and none of that has ever really bothered me. I feel like as a goalie, you have to learn to drown out some of that external stuff and just focus on everything that's going on in the fishbowl, as one of my former coaches used to say. So, obviously that's something to think about, but hey, regardless of where I'm playing, then, I'll just take it as it comes.
Absolutely. Westchester, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. I would have to say probably one of the toughest cities to play in youth hockey or just youth sports just in general. So many kids, so much competition. People in Philly take their sports probably seriously, more serious than most places in the country, and probably maybe take it a little bit too far, which happens everywhere in the country, especially when it comes to youth sports. But talk to me a little bit about youth sports for you and what that was like, because of course in hockey you played obviously with the boys and everything. Was there any other sports you also played?
Yeah, so my main sport growing up was mainly hockey because I played on a women's travel team, and then I played boys, middle school, and high school hockey. So that took up a lot of my time. I was the only goalie on most of the teams that I played on, so there was that main commitment there. Mm-hmm. I did have a brief stint as a field hockey goalie for my high school I think it was my sophomore year because they needed a goalie. And I remember two of the girls in my grade came up to me and they're like, "Oh, you play like hockey on the boys team, so we could really use you." And I was like, "Okay, why not?" But that was the main extent. I also played softball for a little bit when I was little before I got into hockey. So hockey's always been like the main thing, though. And I will say, I wish I had played more sports growing up. I think you become a much more well-rounded athlete playing multiple sports and taking some breaks from your main sport in the off-season to play another sport. So I guess to anybody that's like a parent with a child in hockey or just like a young player in general, I would say go and play other sports too. I think it's just better for you. And yeah, I wish I would have done that a little more. But yeah, all in all, hockey was the main priority.
I have to ask you, you said sophomore year you played a little bit of field hockey, goalie and everything. Is there some comparables there? Are there things that you can take from ice hockey being a goalie, which you're usually down a little bit more than probably in field hockey? Are there some comparables that you can go back and forth between the two sports?
That's so hard to say because it's very, very different. Like in field hockey, obviously there's no like sliding around because you're on a turf. Like,
sure.
Yeah, like you can like do dives into people and kind of almost like a poke check in ice hockey as a goalie where you can kind of lay all out and do that poke check, but it's still very, very different. I didn't play like a traditional field hockey goalie. I had been playing ice hockey goalie for several years at that point. I think I had implemented the butterfly a couple of times in field hockey.
Did you really?
Does that. Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
That was probably... I actually had a coach yell at me one time, and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "Well, this is what I grew up doing."
It's instinct to you at that point, right? Instinct.
Yeah, and then there were times where I did it, and then I forgot how much bigger the net was and that it's harder to get up and move as quickly. So, yeah, there were absolutely times that I got burned, and I said, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't the smartest move," but it was all second nature and all out of habit. So I would say they're very, very different. But obviously, like, playing the angle and, like, squaring up your hips and your shoulders to the play, to the ball, to the puck, whatever it is, those things are transferable. But for the most part, it's a much different game, and you're bound to different rules.
Did you enjoy it, though? Did you enjoy that season of being a goalie in field hockey?
I did, yeah. I mean, I liked it a lot, and I kind of had wanted to do it more, but because of how much field hockey I missed for ice hockey, because the seasons overlapped a bit, and I was playing travel and high school hockey, that the coach got upset with me and she benched me for like the rest of the season. And I was the main varsity goalie. They brought up the JV goalie, and it was just I would just show up and I wasn't playing, and I said, "Oh well, I guess maybe this isn't going to work out."
Yeah, no, I could understand that. Talk a little bit about travel hockey in Philly. What other parts of like Pennsylvania and maybe even New Jersey did you guys travel for travel hockey?
Yeah, so it was a lot different when I was growing up, and especially in like middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
Girls hockey is much bigger in this like general area, like in Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, than like it used to be. So our league, and I think there's more teams in like Maryland now too, so getting like closer. But growing up, we played in a league called like the Mid-Atlantic Women's Hockey Association.
Mm-hmm.
We were the only Pennsylvania team at the time.
Oh, wow.
So we would travel mainly to North Jersey to go play other teams. If we were like traveling, it was pretty much us and then 4 or 5 Jersey teams.
Now that's you said when you played that was the only team, and it's changed so much since then. We're only talking 15 years ago, 12 years ago?
So when I started playing, which was around like 15 years ago, there were some other women's teams, but it was more along the lines of like in-house teams that we would play against.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't travel to the extent that we did, going to tournaments like in upstate New York or other parts of the country. And they kind of dissolved just because there wasn't enough girls. The girls were all coming from New Jersey or from like the greater Philadelphia area. So that's kind of where it had condensed to, and all these other teams kind of had collapsed. Like in my area, at one point, long before I started playing, there was another team called the Little Flyers. They since have revamped their women's program as of just a couple years ago while I was in college. Or even like as I was getting out of college or something. It hasn't been very long. And there was one called the Phantoms. There was a Lady Phantoms. They dissolved years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had played against them a little bit. So it gets kind of complicated because teams kind of come and go, but now teams are getting much more established. The girls team I grew up playing for was the Quakers.
Okay.
And now the Quakers for women are no more, and they've pretty much kicked the Quakers out of the rink that I grew up playing at. They play at a new rink that is very local to me. It's much smaller, so it's a much smaller program now. But now the Quakers women's has become Junior Flyers, and I was technically part of that first Junior Flyers girls organization as they were doing the transition from Quakers to Junior Flyers.
What do you think in the perception of women's hockey has changed to the point where there are more ladies playing, obviously, and also there's more attention to it? Because that's a short period of time to go from very little to it's just grown so much more, if you know what I'm saying. What do you think has changed in the past 10, 15 years that, at least in the Philadelphia area, as you're talking about, the ladies' game has grown so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think in part, not to take away from like the women's growth in general, but I think in part has to do with the fact that hockey in general has grown in the area. Like whether that's women's hockey, men's hockey, I think just the fact that hockey in itself as a whole has gotten more exposure has helped that. And I think it was kind of it was a much more slower moving process than the way I described it.
Sure.
Because if you go back even further than me, there was barely any teams. Like some of the teams have been in existence for a very long time, like probably like 10, 15 years before I even played. So that would have been even before I was born.
Sure.
Like just trying to think of it now, it was a slow moving process, but it kind of made sense because the more like girls that somehow got exposure to it, whether it's like a girl that they went to school played hockey or maybe the Flyers were doing better at the time. I know I kind of noticed that after their Stanley Cup run in like 2009, 2010, that helped a little bit, I think, with a little bit of a push. But it only takes just a couple girls, like, you know, going to school with you and you meet someone, she says, hey, I play hockey. Oh, wait, that kind of sounds cool. Let me try that. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to it, and also just like meeting people generally, or people that have moved into this area from other areas where they did have more hockey and they played hockey and now they're playing here. So it's interesting. That's a really good question. I don't have like the answer definitely, but I think from my own experience, that was part of it.
Well, because there is a lot of moving parts, as you said, and everything, and a lot of things that kind of lead up to that. Now, you said you were a part of like the Junior Flyers, really the first incarnation of that and everything. How involved was the Flyers organization? Was there, attention brought to you guys by the Flyers that would help grow the program?
Not that I remember, no. I don't think there's a lot more involvement now than there used to be, but at the time, I was a junior in high school, so this was 2014 to 2015 season.
Right.
So I don't remember really any involvement being there. I don't know if it was somebody else dropped the ball and didn't really put it out there that we were doing that. I just know that somehow, some way, we all had the contracts, because there was the boys first. There was the boys Junior Flyers, which was strictly like men and juniors and boys hockey. And then there was Quakers, which was like the girls tier 1 and tier 2, and then boys tier 2, so like AA, single A, B hockey. And So, yeah, not that I remember any involvement. I just know that one way or another there's some sort of agreement to have the Junior Flyers and use the name and use the brand a little bit. But, yeah, it's grown exponentially since then. I think there is a lot more involvement. But from what I remember, I guess to answer your question super long-windedly,
no, it's okay.
There was, no involvement.
No, I think it's interesting, though, because, again, I think we can all say that the ladies programs, especially in youth hockey, could use a little bit more support, especially from the NHL, and they are getting it. There are a lot of NHL teams that are helping that along. I just recently had Stephen Brown. He's working with the Albany Ice Cats, which is the ladies programs, 12 and under, 14 and under.
Yeah, I played against them.
So and it's amazing because he started off as a men's hockey coach, and he kind of led his way there because he married a woman who played for the University of Vermont ladies team. And so I think there are just a lot more people starting to provide more attention and in the right ways to the ladies' youth programs, which are going to just help build up because now we have the PWHL, which is had a very successful first season and everything, which is very cool. So you grew up a Flyers fan, correct?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Why do you
in recent years?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, well, listen, being a Rangers fan, we've had some pretty crappy years. So I know that feeling. I know the Rangers have been on a little bit of an upside recently, but I'm old enough to remember the really lean years and everything. Watching hockey games when you were younger and helping you, probably kind of grow your love for hockey. Tell me some of the players, from the Flyers that really kind of you're like, yes, I like him. Yes, guys who really got you really into hockey that played for the Flyers.
Yeah, so I think at the time when I first got into hockey, I believe the goalie at the time was Antero Niittymaki. Mm-hmm. So he was my first goalie idol. I actually wore number 30 for my first team because of him. And then as I got older, to be honest, I didn't totally have that idol. Mm-hmm. But then this is going to sound bad, Michael Layton came in.
Love Michael Layton.
I know how people feel about, I get a lot of grief for Michael Layton. But I wore 49 all throughout high school because of Michael Layton.
Well, that's crazy because Michael Layton was a guest here on the Power Play Post Show. Really nice guy. Talked to him also at one of the All-Star games. Absolutely, yeah. So that's pretty cool that you could, mention a guy like Michael Layton who is to me, he was just one of the nicest guys to talk to and just very, very down to earth and just a great guy to be around hockey-wise and everything. So that's pretty cool. Anybody else other than Michael Layton?
Oh, yeah. I loved Sergei Bobrovsky as soon as he came in to the Flyers, and I was devastated when he was gone, and I swore up and down, I'm like, this guy's going to do so well. I'm like, they just don't see it because we're stuck with Brzgalov for right now.
Right.
And he goes and wins a Vezina with Columbus, and I said, who was right? Who was right? Never forgave the Flyers for that one, ever.
Now, was there a netminder that you tried to model your technique after as well?
I would say growing up, not that I completely remember, other than years ago was when I was, I guess growing up because I was probably a freshman in high school when I found out who Jeff Lerg was. I don't know if you know the name.
Yes, I do. I know Jeff Lerg.
So Jeff Lerg, I discovered, I think maybe my dad had told me about him. I don't remember exactly who, but my dad said, hey, there's this really short goalie, 5'6". He's playing in the AHL, ECHL, and he was an absolute monster over at Michigan State. And I watched him, and I said, oh, my gosh, I should play exactly like this guy because he is incredibly undersized for the level he's playing at. I think I can learn a lot from him. So since then, I, for the most part, have always stayed true to that and tried to model myself around him. But I've also, I used to really like the way Corey Schneider played, and Varlamov, Semyon Varlamov. So I've emulated a little bit off there, and now most recently, not that I'm changing up much of what I do now, but I really like to watch UC Saros.
Nice. Now, you mentioned Jeff Lurgan. Of course, he was a shorter guy. He was 5'6", and for a goalie, a male goalie, that's a very, very short and everything. And your height is obviously, a little bit less than that and everything.
A little bit. A little bit.
Yes, exactly. I think you tap in, 5'1"?
My driver's license says 5 foot. My elite prospect says 5'1", so I think we'll give elite prospects that one.
Fair enough. Do you find it... Now, I've noticed, some goalies like to kind of like stay in between the posts. They don't come out at all. They don't want to cut off too much of the angle because they don't want to get beat and, have somebody go past them really fast, fast skater and go past them and lose it. But some guys like to go out and cut off that angle. Do you find that because you're a smaller goaltender, you like to stay in between the pipes a lot more and kind of go side to side and just kind of block more? Or do you come out a little bit?
Oh, definitely come out a little bit because as a small goalie, like you're taught that above all else, you need to have more of that depth to cut off more of the angle and take up more of the net. Mm-hmm. But there's also a fine line that I've had to learn, especially as I've gotten into the higher levels and going up even through like college, semi-pro, pro ranks, where you can't be so far out because the game's a lot faster and people are just going to rip right around you. Yeah. So you have to find that fine line of, okay, where is a spot that I am comfortable at, where I know that I'm still taking up a good amount of net, but also I have the speed and the strength to move around and keep up with the play and maybe go back to, get across to the back door if needed.
How have you, over the years, determined what size pads to wear? Because I never played goalie, so I'm not even going to guess. But I could only imagine, especially when I played, I was like 160 pounds, right? I was a small guy when I played hockey and everything, 160 pounds. And, I went from 5 foot when I first started playing hockey to 6 foot when I finally finished and everything. So I grew a lot and everything. I could only imagine how much it cost to buy the pads and everything. But have you, worn smaller pads and then gradually went to bigger pads, or how did that work with you? Because I know sometimes when we look at some goalies, we're like, man, that goalie must be huge. And then they take off the pads and they're like a skinny rail. And it's just like, whoa, what happened here? Because I could only imagine movement, on the ice is either difficult or not difficult based on how big the pads are. And if I sound like an idiot, I apologize. Again, I've never played goalie personally myself, but I've always been curious about that. And with your smaller stature, I kind of imagine that is something that you have to decide on when you do, purchase new pads or pads just in general.
Yeah. So I would say part of that is a lot of trial and error. Mm-hmm. You're finding what you feel comfortable in. I know that, to be completely honest, I didn't have a ton of growth spurts after I started playing. Right. So I fortunately didn't have to, I didn't go through a lot of, I did go through a lot of gear, but not nearly as many sets of gear as other kids did simply because they were growing and I wasn't. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it was trial and error as far as brands, as far as a little bit of sizing. And my one goalie coach that I had, he had, this synthetic ice studio, and he had the walls lined up of used gear so that you could try all these different things out. So I got to play around a bit, especially when I first started with sizing, where I felt comfortable, kind of the brand. And even growing up, I was switching between Bauer and Vaughn, mm-hmm. which they're completely different sets of pads. So I don't know where the rationale was with that. But ultimately, for the most part, I've stuck with Bauer. I went to Trues recently, and they're good pads, but they're not for me. So I'm switching back to Bauer. I always go back, so I don't know why I did that in the first place. But I digress from that. So a lot of it's just simply trial and error and what each goalie personally feels comfortable with, because some guys like to wear like a much larger pad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I personally, I'm like, I want my knee like right on the middle of the knee block where it should be, and I don't want some like real high thigh rise. I want it to be somewhere kind of in the middle of like where my pant leg is. So
Gotcha.
I feel like I maximize my mobility that way, where I know my body's already not big enough to cover a ton of net on its own. So I'm not so much worrying about playing like a blocking style and having like the big gear to accommodate that.
Sure.
I need to have the speed and the mobility to get around the net. So that's what I found works for me.
See, that's awesome, because I wouldn't even thought about it that way. I would have thought, well, she's probably going to go with bigger pads to cover up more space, but mobility is probably, the key for you and whatnot. Let's talk about high school, right? If I remember right, looking through your Instagram, you were on a high school team that won 3 championships, and we're not talking about like just the local Philadelphia. We're talking about state championships, correct?
Yeah, 3 high school state championships. So it was my sophomore, junior, and senior years. So consecutively, we won states 3 times. My freshman year of high school, we fell a little short in the Flyers Cup, which in Pennsylvania high school hockey, there's the Flyers Cup championships on the east side, and on the west side, there's the Penguins Cup. And then for the states, whoever wins Penguins Cup and Flyers Cup meets in the middle at State College at Penn State and plays for the state championship.
Gotcha. And so the school that you went to won that 3 years in a row.
Yep, 3 years in a row.
That's impressive.
Back to back to back. I think that was the first time. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think it was the first time in our high school's history that we had won it consecutively, but it wasn't like the first, it wasn't our first rodeo there. Like, there were
Sure.
other teams before then that had won it too.
Are there other players that have come from those teams that have gone on to play professionally?
The only one that I can truly think of, like at least on my team, on the top of my head, my goalie partner at the time, I believe he's playing professionally now. I think he's playing somewhere in Europe, Jason Grandy.
Okay.
And long before us, there was Eric Knodel. I don't know if you know the name. I think he was most recently with the Reading Royals. He came from my high school. I remember dude's a monster. He's like 6'5", 6'6". He one time came out to help out with our middle school team when I was in middle school, and I was like, oh my God. I can't let this guy shoot on me. He's absolutely massive. But
How did
so that's who I can think of off the top of my head. There may be some other guys, so if I'm missing them,
But that's
but.
pretty. So it's not a lot of guys who've gone professional and everything. So it's. I'm trying to toot your horn here. It's kind of impressive that you've taken this as far as you have, because it's a difficult egg to crack, so to speak. A lady getting into this side of professional sports. Have you ever thought about it that way? Have you ever thought about what you're doing and what it means for the hockey world, for maybe even little girls to see you doing this?
Not entirely. I mean, I've thought about it before, but I've also been fortunate enough to kind of grow up in that space where I have seen other women, not many, but I've gotten to see a few for myself. Mm-hmm. So I've always considered them they're the pioneers. I'm kind of riding their coattails, but I know at least to some extent, since it hasn't been that many, that's okay, that's still something positive and something that is good for the hockey community, whether that's, men's hockey, women's hockey. It's good for the community as a whole.
So let me ask you probably a tough question. And how much was there pushback, especially in high school? Because I know high school hockey, like in Massachusetts, Minnesota, Michigan, even here in New York, and I got to imagine in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, even so as well. Did you get pushback from family members of, players or from, players themselves about you playing with the boys?
Yeah, fortunately, though, a lot of it didn't come from, a lot of it wasn't directed towards me.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of, my parents would kind of hear things in the stands, or there would be things said in passing that they heard that they, kept from me.
Mm-hmm.
There were definitely times, though, in high school and middle school, I remember actually I was in sixth grade, and a kid on my team at the time, it was my first year playing hockey, and we were playing middle school B hockey. Nobody was good, but, middle school boys. So he was in my homeroom class, and we had our games on Sunday nights, and we were just not good. I hate saying that about a bunch of, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. We just were not good. But after every game, so Monday morning, I'd go in the homeroom, and he would just tell me about how much I sucked.
Mm.
And it actually got to a point where it was upsetting me because I'm an 11-year-old girl, and I said, hey, this isn't fair. I understand, I'm not the greatest goalie out there, but, he's being mean. And my dad said to me, I'm going to have you sit down with the coach, who at the time was the high school coach for the whole program. He pretty much ran the whole program, and he was the varsity head coach. He eventually became my head coach when I moved up into high school. He sat me down, my dad said, you need to, take this, and you need to sit down with the coach yourself and, talk about it and see if there's a resolution.
Right.
So at 11 years old, I'm sitting in front of the head coach of the varsity high school team, and I said, hey, I don't like this. I don't like the way I'm being treated. And you know what he said to me? He said, well, you're maybe not in these exact words, but what I remember it as, well, you're a woman playing men's hockey. You're kind of asking for it.
See, that's the wrong attitude. It just really is. I mean, I understand that there are going to be probably men that are going to listen to this interview and go, oh, she shouldn't be there. But that's just the wrong attitude. It's just the wrong way to look at it. Now, were you able to take that and use that as a driving marker for you to then go and succeed in hockey?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was in itself the factor, because there were other things that had happened since then. There's, to an extent, always has been pushback towards me, mainly because of my size above anything else. I would say not nearly as much of, the gender aspect of it as the size, which I know a lot of people can relate to.
Which if somebody,
whether that's, a man or a woman.
Yeah, which if somebody said to you, you're too small to play hockey or to play goalie, you wouldn't be as offended than saying, you're a woman playing in a men's, sport and everything. And that to me, it's that's just the ass backwards way of looking at, stuff and everything, right? First of all, we should support anybody that wants to do anything, because you're not sitting in front of a TV playing video games, right? I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. Too many kids do that today, or even 15 years ago and whatnot. And I don't want to turn this into a bitch session of any sort, but it's just one of those things where that's just the wrong thing to say, when sports should be uplifting people, not, pushing them down, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the reality of the situation in that in hockey, ideally you want a larger goalie, because it's just physics. A larger mass is going to take up larger area. I understand the general rationale.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've seen it myself, where there's times where I've been scored on, where maybe I misplayed a shot because, hey, I shouldn't have gone down on that shot or something, whereas my goalie partner, who would have been 6 feet tall, could do that, and it would have just hit him.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is that aspect, and I understand why there is that pushback. But at the same time, when you can go out there and you can stop just as many pucks as anyone else, as long as you're doing the things that you need to do and you're playing your game, then, it is a little short-sighted, I'll say, to go down that path. But my thought process always was at least to combat that. I'm like, well, would I really be here? Would I have done these things if I couldn't stop a puck, if my size was holding me back way too much?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm 6 foot tall, 51 years old, have tons of years of experience, and I can guarantee you I could not stop a puck probably as good as you. Not even close. I wouldn't even take the challenge to get on the ice because I would just embarrass myself and everything. I was going to ask you, about having pucks thrown at you. Are you a little bit crazy? Because, again, you mentioned the one guy, Eric, who came in and was shooting pucks at you guys and everything. You're like, there's no way I'm going to let him shoot pucks at me. Do you have to be a little bit crazy to be a goaltender? Just in general. I don't even care if you're playing against men or women. You have to be a little crazy, right, to play goalie?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I used to say, no, because that I was just like, it's just, it's just something I enjoy. I just do it. I don't understand the crazy, but now sometimes when I look back at, say, film, and I see how fast pucks are coming at me, or I see myself in comparison to other people, especially size-wise, I think, I can see now why people might say that's a little crazy.
I just think, I don't care who you are, just letting somebody throw a puck at you at 90 miles an hour, it's just crazy insane. Just absolutely insane. This upcoming, talk to me a little bit about training. How much training are you doing this summer to get ready for camp in October?
So I'm on the ice around 2 to 3 days a week. I work full-time too, so obviously bearing my work schedule, but it's very consistent, so I've fortunately been able to build up a routine. I get in the gym about 3 to 4 days a week, whether that's before work or after work, depending on where my ice falls. I also have gotten into boxing relatively recently. It was a couple months ago, and I've noticed that that's a really good workout, and it's also kind of a way to work on my hand-eye coordination and just my overall athleticism.
Sure.
So I've mixed some boxing in there too. So my schedule is pretty consistent, but depending on ice, because ice is a little hard to come by here, and then depending on other aspects of my schedule, I'm pretty frequently doing whatever I can to just stay prepared and get ready.
Now, there's another gentleman who's about to make his entrance into the Fed, Jack Hudak, with the Watertown Wolves. He obviously has his own podcast. You guys are actually friends. Have you trained with Jack as well?
I have trained with Jack, yeah. So last year, actually, when I first met him, we're under the same agency. So I met him initially at last year's FPHL league-wide free agent camp. That was the first time we met in person.
Cool.
And then we hit it off with a couple other guys. We all decided to go to the Quad City Storm's free agent camp. So we trained there. We were all together there. It was really cool. And then he actually came down to Westchester to train with me a little bit and just hang out, see him. And it was really good to kind of get on the ice with somebody else that's kind of going through something similar right now.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So what do you want to take out of the upcoming camp that you're going to be a part of in Danbury? What is it for you that is what's going to drive you through this?
I thought about this a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And above all else, regardless of what happens, whether they sign me to a player contract or they release me and whatever happens after that, above all else, I just want to show people, or I would say show kids that are in a similar situation that I was when I was growing up. I didn't have that person to look to and see hey, they have a lot of adversity and they have a lot of things going against them, but they still made it and they were able to do something. Above all else, I want to be able to be that, that I guess that I'm blanking on the word right now, and it's crazy because I was thinking about this. I thought I'd get asked this question too. I want to be that sort of like beacon of hope for somebody else. I hope that doesn't sound very conceited, but
No.
I wish I had somebody to look up to and say, hey, they have all this stacked against them and they could still go and do these things. Because there were times where I just thought I'd never make it anywhere and I wanted to give up. And I think in the past that's hurt me. I just want, another kid, if it was like my younger self, I'd want them to know, like, hey, you're not alone. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is possible.
Yeah, without a doubt. And confidence is what you're referring to, that you probably didn't have as much of it, that you wish you would have had more. When you exude confidence, other people will see it, pick up on it, and they will, kind of feed off of it. And it's very important. And I believe that anybody that has the skill should have some confidence, right? Because people who don't have the skill, like myself, I would walk in there and be scared crapless to be able to go up against, even people who are playing in single-A hockey. I have good knowledge. I understand the heart and can tell a story, and I've loved hockey my whole life. But to be able to play at the level that you're playing at, no, not even a chance and everything. But confidence, I think, is very important. It's one of the key factors of anyone being successful in anything that they do, is having confidence in who they are and their abilities. I wish you the best of luck this upcoming. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be watching, following along, and seeing how you're doing. And without a doubt, I definitely want to have you back on the show to talk about your experience, whether it be as a Danbury Hat Trick player or not. I still want to have you back on to at least talk about everything that you've gone through when you get there and everything. If you'll have us back, or if you'll come back, so to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and absolutely, completely open to that, and I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, and whether you come up as a player to Binghamton for a game or you actually just come up as a fan, you definitely got experience. Binghamton's one of the great hockey cities in the country. 52 years of hockey here, and I know Danbury. You're going to go down there and you're going to experience what it's like to play in that ice arena where the Trashers played, and they craziness that is Danbury, which is pretty exciting for pretty much any league that they're in. They just provide all that excitement and stuff, and you get to be around that. And honestly, probably get to learn from Billy McCurry. He's a great head coach. He's got the lineage there. I mean, he's got family members that have had a long line in hockey. So you're going to go in there and you're just going to learn from Billy, and that's a great thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. I've heard really nothing but good things about Billy, about pretty much Danbury as a whole, and sometimes I think about it and I said, how did I get so lucky? Because it's an amazing opportunity, regardless of what happens, regardless if I'm in Danbury or say somebody else picks me up or something, or regardless of whether I'm in the Fed or not. So, I just think it's really exciting, and like I said earlier, I'm just very humbled and grateful for the opportunity in itself.
Taylor, one last question before I let you go. Have you and Mariah talked about this opportunity for the two of you?
We have not. No, I've never met her. Haven't spoken to her. I think we're both equally as surprised because I was not aware that was happening.
Oh, okay.
And my signing came like a little while after, the conversations had started.
Yeah.
So, we just haven't spoken. I'm sure we're going to obviously meet at camp. I don't know if we'll speak before then, but long-winded, we have not spoken.
Great opportunity for you, Taylor. Good luck, obviously, with the hat tricks, and I can't wait to talk to you again in the future. And again, like I said, if you don't make it up here as a player to Binghamton, you definitely got to come up and check out, hockey in Binghamton. I don't know did you ever play? Because you said you played a little upstate. Did you ever play in Binghamton with the travel team?
I have, yeah. It's been a long time, but I don't think I played where Binghamton plays now. No,
you probably played either over at the BCC Ice Center. I would imagine. I don't think they would have you guys play at the Polar Cap. Put it this way: if you remember playing in Binghamton and it was the coldest place you ever played in, then it was the Polar Cap. If it looked like it was on a college campus, then that was the BC Ice Center. So that's usually how I explain it to people. So, but either way, Taylor, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Bobby.
And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the season 14 debut show here, and I am sitting in the office of Brooks Hill from the Binghamton Black Bears. Brooksy, how has the summer gone so far for the Black Bears? I'm guessing I just witnessed a season ticket holder come in, a brand new one, actually sign up and everything. But how are things of that nature going, the business side of things, so to speak?
I think people don't get a great view of what goes on behind the scenes because everyone is always concerned with the product on the ice, and Brant does a good job having a top tier product that we get to put on display. One thing that is a blessing and a curse, kind of like a double-edged sword, is when you have a championship season, it means your season goes on a little bit longer.
Off season shorter.
Correct. And you kind of understand that, oh, hey, like people are going to take vacations, things like that. Obviously in the corporate world, we're at the mercy of people on their time, but a lot of things that we got done last year, my first off season up here, I realized we're a little bit more crunched this year because, we were playing that extra month of the season. And once the season actually ends and the celebration is over with, we still have to get the guys out of town, move out of the apartments, get them ready for their summer and what they have to do. So our timetable of what needs to happen got pushed further into summer, and the things that we were doing, early June, we're getting to in July, or now, it's August 1st when we're recording. A lot of people are finally starting to, turn the wheel a little bit to next season instead of last season. Like we're looking for the future now instead of reminiscing about what happened back in May.
So I saw someone come in. I know that there was a meeting with one of the big advertisers here for you guys. That's happening right now as we're talking and everything. And that's a common thing almost every single day, right? You guys are meeting with sometimes advertisers, sponsors, and there are people coming in renewing tickets, right?
Yeah, so the phone rings every day, some days more than others. I will say like the week of 4th of July, extremely slow for meeting-wise because a lot of people are going out of town and they're not checking their email, things like that. And then like when a holiday falls on a weekday, everyone's schedule kind of gets, a little wonky. Because it's like, are we doing a long weekend, or like, are we getting 2 days off? Are we taking 1 day off? All that kind of thing. But, no, we have people come in every single day, to the office, whether it's, putting money down for season tickets or, paying in full, calling, asking questions, people picking up merchandise orders, all that kind of stuff, happens on a daily basis. I know, Trevor has had a couple more meetings this week than I did. I had 3 that I went to last week. Like this week I didn't have any, but like it's just the way it works. Is like, hey, my people all got back to me at the same time last week, and this week Trevor's people got to, and then like the same thing will happen. Like Kelsey went out and she did some on-site meetings with some people last week.
I know she's considered an office manager, but she's also working with businesses and trying to get them signed up too.
Oh yeah,
is that something that she's a part of as well?
Yeah, everybody is. Even EJ has a sales client. So it's.
Is it like a billboard company?
It is not.
Jay, that would be hilarious.
That would be.
Because, him working with graphics all the time and stuff.
That would be. I would say it's definitely one close to home for him, so it makes perfect sense.
Perfect.
And other than that, like, Bobby even has corporate advertisers, and Bobby's the head of ticketing, so he's got season ticket holders to manage. I'm sure I did something wrong with the season ticket that I sold today when you were up here earlier.
I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate
helped out
that.
the customer the best you could. Got him really, even if it wasn't in the section he wanted, you got him the seats that he wanted, and it's kind of part of all this, right?
It is. So hopefully Bobby doesn't get too mad at me after you leave and being like, you did this wrong, this, and this. So I'm sure I'll have a chat with him about it.
If you brought in the money, everybody should be kind of okay with that then.
That's the way I see it, but sometimes that's not the way others see it. But
what about vacations?
Okay.
Does everybody, get some time off? Does everybody take some time off? Has everybody I know you were down in North Carolina, getting some rest and relaxation and everything. Has everybody kind of done that up here? Is that's an important part of you guys getting ready for the next season, right? Getting some time away.
It absolutely is. Like, I know, like, Trevor's really big into country music. So him, his girlfriend, and some of his friends, they've gone this year, a couple times they've gone to country concerts at MetLife Stadium over,
nice. Wow.
I guess, I say the city, but I guess technically it's New Jersey.
Yeah.
But they've gone a couple times. I think they've gone twice to MetLife this summer, and then they've gone to Syracuse.
So that's how he relaxes. That's his relaxation.
It is.
Even if it's not a week-long vacation, it's something.
Funny enough, he's going on vacation to Myrtle Beach, where I was a little bit ago. I went home twice this summer. I went home first for a buddy from high school's wedding.
Yeah.
That was just like a long weekend. And I got to see some buddies from high school. And then I got back about 2 weeks ago from about a 7 to 9 day vacation, I would say. Like, I went on a bachelor party to Myrtle Beach for a weekend, and then I spent the rest of the following week back home.
Yeah, I think that's when I was talking to you.
Yes, yeah. So got to see that time. I got to see a lot more family,
right?
A lot more friends.
How important is all this?
It's huge for me, and to sound a little selfish
because you're so far away from home.
Yes, it's not this isn't a secret knowledge or anything like that. I'm the only non-local full-time employee for the Black Bears office staff. Even Dylan, grew up in Endicott. Aiden in Montrose, and Jeets over in Inwell, and then Brant's a Rochester guy. So
actually, for him, it's perfect to live in Binghamton, even though he's in Philly right now. Obviously with Gemma and Tucker. But Binghamton's perfect for him because he's close to Rochester. He's got family here in Binghamton area.
Exactly.
So yeah, you are away from.
I'm away from everything. Like, when I moved up here, I didn't know anybody whatsoever. So it is important that I do go back at Christmas and then go back during the summer. I think everybody up here in the office.
Don't get sick this upcoming year, please.
I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, that was really bad.
I'm definitely going to try not to.
When I heard you weren't going to be doing the game, and then someone said, "Oh yeah, he went to the hospital," I was like,
yeah. So it's because, like, it's a luxury for me that I get to travel with the team.
Sure.
I think it's definitely the best way to do the job is travel with the team. Be a part of the ups and the downs, the good and the bad that happen, like with travel, everything like that.
It's probably the one thing you were disappointed with the schedule because there wasn't enough Carolina stuff built in there. It's disappointing when we don't play in Winston-Salem because I do have my parents and some friends that could come to the games and just be around you and see you.
But I mean, hey, it's selfishly for the organization, it's a great schedule. For Brooks Hill, it might not be, but that's fine.
What about pickleball? Talk about pickleball. I think I've seen you on social media. You guys are playing pickleball, and I think you play with Sam, if I remember.
I have played with Sam Levecchi and his girlfriend. But something that we have started this summer is typically on Tuesdays. Trevor and his girlfriend kind of started it. Mm-hmm. It said, hey, we're going to go out and, we want to play pickleball. And at first, I was like, hey, man, let me know. Like, I definitely want to try it because I've always got the itch for something competitive. You know, it's a game you keep
Athletic,
score.
right.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, like, right now it's just everybody, like, in their girlfriend and everything like that. And it's like, oh, bro's like, well, you don't have one. And it's like, okay, yeah, like, thank you, Captain Obvious. Like, you know, the sky's blue also.
Well, if you want, I could be your +1 if you wanted to. I mean, I'm not going to hold your hand.
There we
but
go.
I would certainly try to play pickleball.
So it got past that. It got, funny enough, got the call one day. He's like, hey, like, we got invited to go. So I went and bought like a 2-pack of paddles. And me and Bobby started playing together as partners. It makes sense for the roommates to be partners with each other.
Sure.
And we kind of figured out that his high school tennis and, you know, my bloodline of coming from a Division I tennis player, kind of
works.
Yeah, and
How
it works
hard is
together.
pickleball? I've never played it. Obviously, I've seen it now on TV because it's becoming. I mean, Hollywood superstars are playing pickleball, and now even, you know, is it easy, hard to play?
It's a technical sport, I would say. It's like how Brant talks about having a good first 3 strides.
Yeah.
In pickleball, if you can 2 quick steps, you can cover a lot of ground. And then it's all about like the control.
And that works well for you, being a lacrosse player, right?
I think so.
There were
I
some
think
things that built into you being able to play pickleball.
I think the agile, being able to change directions. One thing for sure that I think everybody who's in our group, because we have a group of like 8 to 12 people.
Wow.
That'll go every week, is they know that like I don't ever give up on a point. So like I'm going to run and chase after it, and then after I hit it, I'm very quick to get back into the middle, which someone told me that, hey, that's actually not the way that you want to play pickleball. Like, they asked me, like, oh, like, did you play high school tennis? Because that's something that like a lot of tennis players who do. Like, they hit the ball and they immediately run back to the center.
Sure.
They're like, actually, no, like, you can just kind of stay on your side, like in doubles, and you want to play at the front of the net. And then you just really want to learn how to control like your spin and your power, because a lot of people get excited when the ball is so high in the air and you just want to slam it as hard as you can, and you think you're going to spike it like in ping pong. Well, a lot of times like that, you actually don't hit down on it enough, and you just sail it out of bounds. Things like that. It is the perfect combination of ping pong and tennis.
Right.
But it's been a lot of fun to do this summer.
But important to your mental
turns.
health to have something to do and to be around people, especially when you're so far away from home, where everybody else is kind of like got family around. So it's been important for you to do that.
It was, and I told my dad that I had started playing it, and so when I was home in July, he asked me to teach him how to play and the rules and things like that. We went to the tennis court that's marked for pickleball at our house back home, or at our clubhouse back home.
Yeah.
And we did it for about an hour.
How good was he?
I could tell that like the thoughts there, and his tennis experience. He knows where he wants to put the ball,
right?
But also like he's never swung a paddle or like hit a wiffle ball.
Really?
Essentially, like with it. So he was hitting it out or hitting it into the net.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do the best with the bending down low because the ball doesn't bounce as high as a tennis ball does. So he had fun. I think he scored. So I think I beat him. 11 to 3 and 11 to 4. So he was able to get some points. Serves the ball really well. He could spin the ball off the serve. Got me a couple of times with a good ace.
That's his tennis background in there. Right?
It is.
Yeah.
So, but like I could tell, like first time ever touching the ball, and he could already spin. Like he could already spin it just because he knows the way to move your arm, and the angle of the racket.
Right.
To go.
Putting English on it is what I like to call it.
Yes.
You know, like what I've played pool for many, many years, and we put English on the ball and the spin, how you get that spin to get it to do everything. And I've heard it's similar, obviously, in all the tennis or the racket type of things. However, I've still never been able to play, ping pong or even tennis for that matter.
I think mostly he was just excited that I was playing a racket sport.
That's similar to what he did, yeah.
I tried tennis early. did the lessons and everything like that, went to tennis camp. Didn't really stick with me a whole lot, and then tried to bring it back in middle school, trying out like for the tennis team. Didn't make the tennis team. So I turned to I did track for a year, and then really got into lacrosse. So who knows? Like if I would have stuck with tennis, I probably wouldn't have been involved with lacrosse at all, because down in North Carolina, tennis and lacrosse are the same sports season.
Sure.
In the spring, and
lacrosse has given you so much.
Absolutely,
and it's something that you could take lacrosse and transfer it over to ice hockey, and especially with what you've done. Let's talk a little bit about the signings so far.
Okay.
So far, some of the signings are impressive, right? Usually a team wins a championship, they lose half the team, right? This is just natural in all levels of ice hockey. It's always been that way. Who are you the most excited that has already signed on? Obviously, Connor Mack is back, and we just announced Nolan Egbert yesterday. So of the guys, who are you excited about having come back so far?
I think it's incredible that you got both goalies signed.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say more than one or the other, because both are, great guys. Both of them play different styles, so it's very hard to compare. Obviously, what C-Mac did in the postseason was incredible. Kind of like what Tijo had done the year before, really taking over the spot as the starter. But what was different about this past season was Egbert made the decision very hard, and there was nothing in Eggy's last 3 games that would say, oh no, like you can't be the guy like in the playoff. Like if he was, if need be, he was absolutely ready to step in. But you ride the hot hand. He had
that one weekend where he took over, right? When the team needed a goaltender to take over, he played all 3 games and came in on the second game of the Saturday game, halfway through, and they won all 3 games.
I think that's position-wise, it's definitely having both the goalies back. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Anytime you get your captain back, is going to be good. So I think
that a selling feature? I mean, if you think about it, so Brant and Tyson lead the team last year. They win the championship, and then Brant signs back. Then Tyson. It almost seems like that's your best selling thing right there, where Brant can go, well, Tyson's back, I'm back, and you could sell that to the players to come back, like Jesse, Anderson, and it just continues to spiral on to the point where everybody's coming back. So far,
it's a big one. I think it definitely doesn't hurt, and I do think that having Brant, I know you talked about it a lot. Having Brant back is definitely like the number one selling point.
Sure.
And then I think Tyson's there at a close second.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're gonna get. And he's an 80-point guy. Maybe this year he's going to get 90. Like, who knows? He's really close to a lot of records in Binghamton hockey history, or at least in Black Bears franchise history. So both of those guys, great to work with.
Well, again, if Tyson does come back and he plays a full season, and say he even just does what he does last year, he'll be leading in games played, assists, unless Gavin Yates takes that over and keeps it, because right now he's at the most in franchise history with 96.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tyson could have maybe even the goals. If he hits another 40 this year, that should put him up over Nikita Ivashkin for the franchise leader. But it also puts him up in Binghamton hockey history in some of those upper echelons, right? Where he's going to be in points, assists, and potentially goals. And be in the top 25 in each one. That's pretty impressive.
It is. So have your captain, and you got already Jesse as an assistant captain from last year, re-signed. That's huge. I mean, the best defensive pair in the league is already re-signed, in Bond and Stone. So,
and we know there's some good ones still coming.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. I think the fans are going to be pretty happy with some of the signings, some of the people coming back. And it's going to make it very difficult, because Brandt's going to bring in some good new young people.
Yeah.
And they're going to be fighting for 1 or 2 spots, 3 spots maybe.
That's
might be more room on the defensive end maybe than the forward side.
Some other team in the FPHL is going to get some good skill level players just because there's not enough spots on our team. Now, granted, the way that the schedule worked out and we can carry a couple more guys for the first week, and, granted, we only play 2 games opening weekend, so tough to give somebody a fair shake in a game situation.
But if for somebody that's on the bubble, you
Yeah.
can play them those 2 games and really see what they've got in game day action, then I think that's helpful.
I think it also just makes practice that much more important, especially early in the season, being like, hey, I have to see what you're doing at practice.
And at this point, we know camp should be fully here at the arena this year.
Yes.
Compared to last year.
Yeah, so we actually talked about, we actually got a memo about the in-ice logos and when they needed to be when did they needed to arrive and everything like that. So
Is something going to look different in the center ice this year? Possibly.
Last time I checked, it was.
Okay.
But I actually don't know what we ended up deciding to go with. I gave a suggestion to incorporate something, and I think it's going to happen. But it's funny enough.
We're
I think they
teasing the
finished it
fans
up.
right now.
I think EJ finished it up while I was back home on vacation.
We're teasing the fans right now.
So,
but it's okay. It'll be fun.
It's fine. I mean, not too much difference going to look on the. I mean, it's still going to be white with blue and red, so it's not going to be.
It's been that for about 40 years. Just so you know,
it's not gonna be
crazy, but
different.
but there might be something there, which is very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the few seconds we have left, let's talk a little bit about what's on tap for the next 2 months before the season starts. Give the fans basically a look-see into what you guys have to do to prepare. What's left on the plate?
Well, obviously we got to show out at the Security Mutual Golf Tournament. Last year we did not have a great showing. And
when is the tournament?
It is August 29th. So that's at the end of the month.
Okay.
So last year, me, Bobby, Trevor, and Andreas played in it. We all practiced the night before, and me and Bobby.
Who was the best golfer?
It's different because we all have unique games.
Okay.
I would classify myself and Andreas as a short hitter. We do. Bobby and Trevor hit the ball further than we do consistently.
I'm not surprised with Trevor. I mean, look at the size of that boy. I mean, if he gets a good knock on that ball,
he's played this summer compared to last summer. He's playing so much better. He's scoring better. Things like that. Me and Bobby normally go toe to toe with each other. He's beaten me a couple times by one shot or two. Like this past weekend, we actually played with Sam Lavecchi. And
Sam golfs a lot.
He does. So
I told him to go up to Tioga Country Club up in Nicholas, New York. It's my home course where I played for many, many years. It was designed by a pro and is an excellent challenge for anybody who likes a challenge when it comes to a golf course.
I want to get out there. I will circling in on everybody's talents. Andreas might be most consistent.
Okay.
With his shots, what you're going to get. He doesn't really veer it off one way or the other.
I hit straight but short,
yeah.
And then I'm very good with my my chipping and my putting.
So Andreas, good chipper. It's not a secret. I don't think they're going to get mad at me for saying this. I'm the best putter.
Really?
In the office.
Nice.
So. Made a couple long ones last year at Security Mutual. I think we shot 6 under, but we were definitely near the lower tier. Let's just say we did not stick around for the trophy celebration.
All right. So what else is happening this summer before we let you go? Anything important?
It's just signings, and with players on my end, it'll be writing about the guys, and then start planning for training camp. I still haven't been told what we think our number is going to be, and obviously that's Brant's decision, and he can I don't think it'll be as much as last year. I think having training camp at the arena is going to be a huge plus.
Okay.
Because we're not having to figure out rides and everything like
Get
that.
everybody over to the Polar Cap or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, Shenango Ice Rink, whatever they call it.
And then let's see here. My calendar is blank now because it's the first day of the month and I haven't filled it in yet. But it'll just be talking to corporate clients, I've been doing work through the season about that, and I look through my old contracts from last year, and a lot of my clients actually are people who signed on in August or September,
Right.
like right before the season, where maybe some other people like Bobby, Trevor, and Kelsey's clients are signing in June and July. So it'll just be talking to them, things out like that. I think the summer hours of the arena still take effect for this month, and then they change over for September. It's like the office closes at 4 during the summer, so that's another hour of daylight for us to go play pickleball and golf and that kind of stuff. I've been in the weight room a lot this summer downstairs. It's really great when the guys aren't there because I can just grab the speaker and blast it at full volume, and I'm the only person in there.
What are you playing when you're working out?
So it's a lot of rap.
Okay.
But also recently this summer, ever since the Luke Bryan concert over at Enjoy.
Can you work out to country music? Is that really a thing?
I have been. If it's
Really?
if it's the right song.
Okay.
The new Post Malone country
Okay.
collab that he's kind of shifting towards.
Yeah.
He's got 3 good songs with Blake Shelton, Morgan Wallen, and Luke Combs. So, and he started off as a rapper, so. It's like that. It's like
he likes all
pop,
kinds of music.
Pop. Yeah,
he can mix everything. Like he did a song with Ozzy Osbourne. I mean,
Yes.
it's like Post is very.
I've worked out to
eclectic.
that. I've worked out to that song. So I have a target weight goal that I'm trying to get towards for an opening night. I'm only about 5 pounds away from it right now.
Is that because the chair got a little heavy at the end?
No, it's because working in sports is very stressful, and you eat at weird hours of the day, and sometimes you skip meals.
And you don't eat the right things too sometimes.
Exactly. Like some nights, you're just eating pizza and wings, and you're getting 1 slice of pizza and like 3 wings, like at 11 o'clock. And I was like, okay, well, gotta go to sleep, and we're gonna do it again tomorrow. So since the night we won the championship, I've gained 13 pounds.
But good weight, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
EJ calls it the dirty bulk, because I don't eat the healthy. That's never been a secret. That I don't eat
healthy.
I don't eat healthy. I'm not a big vegetable guy.
I do like my raw vegetables.
See, I'm complete opposite. I'm big on like pork chop, steak, chicken, everything like that.
I like those things, but
like mashed potatoes, rolls, all that kind of stuff. Like, I would say that's like my clean food, but it's probably not even that clean. Everybody knows how much I drink Pepsi.
I'm looking at this pretty neat Pepsi thing down here on the floor that I might have to talk to you about after we hang up.
Yeah.
Everything, because I'm a Pepsi guy. I'm a huge Pepsi guy, as I've told you in the past as well. So, all right, Brooksy, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you as we get closer to game number 1, which game number 1 is up in Watertown, unfortunately. But game number 1 here in Binghamton will be on Saturday, October 12th, and I hear it's a certain person in the media's birthday. I'm just throwing it out
Okay.
there. Yeah. So, but I will be at the game because it's going to be a big game. Banner raising, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Banners already been designed. Actually, both of the banners have already been designed.
Both banners. Oh.
Yeah. Well, division champs.
Oh. Okay.
I mean,
I wasn't sure. I didn't
yeah.
know if it was going up and everything.
All the other teams got a banner for division, so why not?
No. Well, I think it's the decision of the the team and the booster club, if the booster club is involved in that at all, that who decides to put that up. It's not like a league thing. It's definitely a team thing. So.
Oh yeah. So now we're just going through for that. We're just going through.
That's gonna be so
the
cool.
process.
I gotta be honest with you. To see. Forget the championship banner for a second. Just to see the division banner go back up, because for Binghamton fans, I consider myself one of those. Binghamton fans, those division banners were going up nicely at a good pace and everything. And there are a few years here and there that nothing would go up and everything, but it's like, yeah, there it is. Hockey still exists here in Binghamton because of the Black Bears. And Andreas and Brant and you guys, everybody here, you guys do such a phenomenal job and everything. So it's kind of nice that not just the championship banner, but the division banner will go up as well.
Yeah, I did have to speak up and say we do need to do a practice run.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think they were just going to be like, oh yeah, like we're just doing it here. I was like, hey, like have we thought about doing?
Have you guys seen the video that I posted recently of the banner raising for the championship? You guys can look at that, review that. It gets out of focus a little bit here and there. I've never released it before, but I did release it just a couple weeks ago and everything. And you should see how they did it, just so you can kind of like, figure out some of the kinks.
Yeah. So that'll probably, you asked about what's on tap for the next 2 months. I would imagine probably a September thing. But we need to go through the entire opening night process of how we're going to do it.
Right.
Are the rings going to be here that night? Are we going to say are we going to call everybody out individually?
Right.
Are we going to have the staff involved for it?
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to consider.
So that'll probably definitely be.
And
you
don't want to
thing.
start the game at 7:30 at night, because then you're going to have a media guy complaining, and you don't want to listen to a media guy complain about the start times. And I joke about that just because there are many times you guys go to other locations. We don't have to throw anyone under the bus, but they literally will say the game is going to start at 7:05 and it starts at 7:15 or 7:30 and it starts at 7:45, things of that nature and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's understandable on night one. On game one, game two, technically for the Black Bears, it will be completely understandable.
Yeah. So that'll be a big ticket item probably in the month of September that we'll have all hands on deck for.
Awesome. Brooksy, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Very excited to have this gentleman on with us. He comes to us from the Binghamton Black Bears, and, he just finished getting his master's degree from Lebanon Valley College, and then joined the Black Bears and won a championship. He is Blake Tosto. Blake, you've had a busy spring. And I just talked to you just a little bit beforehand. You've had kind of a busy summer as well, but welcome to the show and glad to have you on.
Yeah, Bob, thanks for having me. It was quite the spring, to say the least. Everything that could have happened was just unbelievable, and it's been great to get to this point.
Now, let's talk a little bit about growing up in Michigan. Obviously, in Michigan, it's college football. There's a lot of sports and everything. Hockey, obviously, being in Michigan and in Minnesota, the Dakotas, obviously very popular and everything. When you were growing up in Bloomfield Hills, was there a lot of opportunity in different sports, or is it concentrated in just one? How did that work for you when you were a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So. My parents, they put me in a lot of sports growing up. Let's see, between hockey, baseball, I was big into golf back in the day, still am. But, I played a variety of sports, like I said, baseball, hockey, golf. Got was into lacrosse a little bit throughout middle school. Played a year of football, so I think a lot of it just kind of was just my parents throwing me into all of that, and I enjoyed being a part of a team and being a part of different sports programs. So growing up, I just kind of doing everything, honestly. And then as time kind of went on, hockey was number one, and it became number one throughout my youth years. And it got to the point where I was making sacrifices to skip lacrosse or skip golf or skip a whole bunch of events with my buddies or do stuff like that to obviously participate in hockey, and that's kind of the reason why I am currently still playing.
No, absolutely. What was the age what was the age point when you determined, all right, I'm going to go full-time hockey, and all the other sports kind of had to separate? Was there a particular age time when that happened for you?
I would say when I was in about 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I throw that in a mesh, those 2-3 years, but I think it was more of just, it became apparent that I wanted to do hockey, and the sacrifices that my family and I were making were purely because of hockey. So from that point on, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue playing to the collegiate level and get, obviously, an opportunity in pro, and the rest is kind of history.
Now, how did you determine, position, forward, defense? Was there an aspect, or was there a coach, or was there something that led you to being a forward instead of maybe a defenseman?
So off the top of my head, I would say, so my dad, I was fortunate enough for him to be my coach growing up throughout my youth years, and there was a point where, I was just kind of out there doing my thing, and he put me on this shooting pucks program in our basement during the summer months. And I think just because of him doing this, I think we did 5,000 shots throughout the summer, so whatever that amount is per week until we went back to school. Just kind of doing those repetitions and just working on my shot and shooting and all that got to the point where it translated onto the ice. And as a forward, just being able to have that skill, being able to score and have that over kids that age was kind of the the focal point where it was apparent I would be a forward, and that was kind of the path I took, and that's just how it's always been, playing forward from that point on.
And you've always had a good shot, right? I mean, that's something that you've kind of excelled on.
Yeah, I mean, I take pride in shooting and wanting to score goals, but yeah, that's just it's kind of something I like to have.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, because some of these years, even through your youth hockey, I mean, scoring 30 goals in 29 games with Brother Rice High, right? I mean, you played 56 games with the Oakland Junior Grizzlies, and you have 20 goals and 40 assists in those 56 games. So it does appear that, I mean, shooting and scoring goals was kind of big for you, even at an early age.
Yeah, I love to score goals. I mean, what hockey player doesn't? But, I really pride myself on being a playmaker who could score goals. I think the best asset for me is my vision and making plays. But, I think I have a little bit of a skill behind, around the net. So I think that attributes to what my dad put me through growing up, and kind of that classical conditioning psychologically, just being able to know I can score in any situation. So,
did you have an opinion, or were you aware of playing AAA hockey versus playing, high school hockey versus playing juniors? Was that something that was more dictated by your dad, who was your coach, obviously, a lot of the time, or was there input by you to be able to say, I want to play here or I want to play here? I mean, you played 1 year with, I think, your high school, and that's it, right?
Correct. So in Metro Detroit, there's obviously so many players and so many organizations and programs. So I think a lot of it was, I played travel hockey all the way up until, I believe, 8th grade. So I'm in U12, U13, U14. And then it got to the point where that was kind of the switch where this is what I want to do with hockey. So I went out and made a AAA team, which was Honeybake at the time.
Yep.
And then from there on out, it was just full-on hockey. And, like I mentioned, with all the Detroit teams, it's kind of like I call it the Detroit Shuffle, where guys bounce around team to team in the area throughout their youth and their up and coming years up until junior hockey. So it's kind of why I bounced around, and it got to the point where I wasn't maybe necessarily lacking confidence, but it was more of just I kind of needed to reset. And with what I was and who I was as a player. So my high school, Brother Rice, had a great program, great players, great teammates. So I jumped ship from the AAA programs, went to play at Brother Rice, and that was one of the better decisions I made in my hockey career, knowing that, as a team, we were very successful. We went on to win the state championship that year, and then individually had some individual success, but that just was just the teammates and guys that are on that team. And you can go look at some of those players. They went on and played junior hockey and went on to the college ranks, and there's a couple guys playing pro. So that was kind of the situation in the Metro Detroit area, and kind of my background is to playing here in Michigan.
What was the difference when you went to go play for Brother Rice? What was the difference in the kind of play that you were seeing versus what you saw previously?
So with playing U16, obviously the caliber of player is very good.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, there's obviously the top teams in the country. There's not a lot of weaknesses. I mean, that translates to almost every level of hockey. But what I noticed most was, like I said, caliber of player, and then obviously at the high school level, there's a disparity between a senior and then some teams have freshmen and sophomores on it. So there's a big age gap in that time period when you're 13, 14 to 16, 17, and you're still growing. So you can see guys that obviously didn't look like they should be out there in terms of just their age and their size, and then there's some guys out there that are just pure men. So I think that was the biggest difference, is just the physical side of things.
Yeah, and the decision to go play junior hockey, NCDC before the USPHL, what was that like? Because the transition there is even more like these guys are serious. They're faster. Yeah. They're bigger. They're stronger. You're almost playing with grown men at that point, right? And it's a different type of game. Can you talk a little bit about the difference?
Yeah. So getting into that was like my first year in Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
So that was totally different. Just knowing that you had to compete with guys at camp, you had to compete within the team, obviously, to be on the roster and play every night. So that was just a whole rude awakening of just I'm into this now. I have to work on myself and my game just to even get in the lineup. So that was just a whole year of learning and processing what's going to take to continue to grow as a player and develop as a player, and more importantly, as a person. That just challenges you mentally, and really hammers home to be mentally tough and what it's going to take to continue to progress as a hockey player and as a person. That was monumental, honestly.
Is there a difference? Is there a big difference between the NCDC and the USPHL?
Yes, it's kind of the same thing as what I mentioned with high school and AAA. It's just caliber of player, teams top to bottom. So I would say that the most. And then the one thing that I noticed was guys at the NCDC level when I was there, they were all driven to continue to play college hockey and play at the Division I or Division III level. And then at the premier level, I'd say less than half the team wanted to continue to do that.
Sure. And
then the other half is kind of just figuring out, or just kind of buying time, playing junior hockey, and just kind of figuring out life. But that was one big difference I noticed.
And what was your thought process going to the Florida Junior Blades?
I think it was, initially I was like, let's see what happens. But it was more of just I needed to reset myself again. I needed to get my confidence back as a player, get touches, get ice time. And that was the best decision I ever made, going from the NCDC level down to the premier level to play with the Junior Blades, play for Todd Pocock and Ty Carlston. That was the best decision I ever made, just because I got my confidence back. I was able to figure out how I was going to be how I was going to get to the college level and who I was as a player to get to the college level and be recruited into the college level. So that was a lot of it. And to this day, like I said, it was the best decision I made because it is literally it's gone to where I'm at now. So.
Blake, and you had a great year too, right? 41 goals, 15 assists for 56 points in 44 games. That really does make a difference. And I've said to people a lot of times, someone can have a lot of talent. They could have a lot of skill. But if they don't have the confidence, people talk about Simone Biles all the time. 4 years ago, she had to pull out and everything. Now she's got all the confidence in the world, and she was able to compete at a super high level. And what you're basically saying is that confidence in a player a lot of times makes a big difference on whether they're successful or just not.
100%. The game is all about confidence. Doesn't matter if it's hockey, football. Doesn't matter if it's in the business world. Confidence is everything.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so, going to Lebanon Valley College, they recruited you?
Correct. So I was recruited at a showcase in Florida with Junior Blades in Tampa and talked to Coach Parsons. And funny enough, it was one of those things where, I had a good conversation with him. And, being down in Florida, it was kind of hard to get to places and find time to go to recruiting visits or stuff like that. And it so happened one weekend in middle of January, maybe early February, my team in Florida, we had a weekend off, which is super rare. Like usually during that time period, it's crunch time, you're playing every weekend. And for some odd reason, we had a weekend off, and Coach reached out again, like, hey, thinking about trying to come up and see the campus. And I was like, I'll look into it. And, I looked at flights, and it just kind of worked out where I was able to fly in and on Friday and fly out on Sunday at a good rate. And it just was one of those things that was meant to be. So I love telling that story because it was literally just all the green flags and just reading the signs of the universe were all right there. And I don't regret any decision I made.
Yeah, and of course that first year is the year of COVID. You guys got 7 games in, or at least you played 7 games that season and everything. And but for being at school for 4 years, you're juggling classwork and homework and trying to get your studies in. And as you told me beforehand, you have your master's in business administration, and that's. To get that in 4 years is really, really impressive. But how did that first year, that COVID year, really affect, playing and, what you could hope to accomplish in your first year?
Yeah. Obviously, at that time period, the world was kind of flipped upside down. So
Yep.
I think every day was just kind of figuring it out. And fortunately enough, coming in, I think there was 10 or 11 of us that were part of my freshman class and guys I played with throughout the years. So I think a lot of it's just like being able to figure it out with them, and we were in it together. So it brought a good sense of community and being a part of a team. So I think, unfortunately enough, we only played a handful of games, but I think it was a good foundation for the future in terms of just being immersed with the campus and the people that were involved throughout my 4 years. And that's why a lot of them are my best friends and will be my best friends the rest of my life, just because we were kind of in the tunnels and in the trenches together during that time, just figuring out life. And every day sparked a new challenge. So that is why, even though that was an unfortunate period of time, I look back and kind of cherish it just because I got to know those guys so well and just being able to figure out life with them. So
now, obviously, Major Junior is run very much like a pro team, right? That's just the way it is. Junior A, very similar to that. You go from, basically Junior A into college hockey and everything, and it's a big change. There's a big transition. Was it almost like a a good thing that COVID kind of happened? You guys got 7 games in. I know it's never good to miss games. It's never good to miss half a season, whether it's injury or COVID or any of that. But it kind of let you guys get your feet wet a little bit, with going to college and having to, study and take classes. I know one of the guys from last year told me that, when COVID happened and he had no hockey, he literally took more courses and got more done quicker, just because it worked out that way. Is there almost a positive spin that you can put on that first COVID year?
Absolutely. Yeah, when you really think about it, just like you said, getting your feet wet and figuring out college and being able to have not a whole lot of stress when it comes to the hockey part of it and the school part of it, all kind of thrown at you at once. It was kind of honestly great because, the way it worked was we didn't play a game until, I think, the end of February.
Right.
So coming as a freshman, figuring out classes, figuring out how the college worked, what the standards were of the college, and being a college hockey player at LVC, just kind of, it helped us where, things weren't going right in terms of on paper and the way the process is normally. It almost benefited us in a way where we were able to ease into it and become at least confident in what we were going to do the following year. So when we came back as sophomores, we knew what to expect. We knew how it was done. And on top of it, we had just under 10 games under our belt. So we knew what the standard was for hockey.
What did you learn about yourself in college?
Ooh, great question. I would say what I've learned the most about myself in college is I can be a very positive influence on people. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the leaders on our team the last couple of years, and just kind of learning about myself and leadership and taking pride in that. I've learned that if I can continue to be a positive influence on people, especially my teammates, I see everyone excelling. So I think just being kind of light in someone's world and seeing when guys are down the dumps or need confidence, just kind of being that positive influence, I've noticed it can be very impactful on them. So I try to continue to do that with people, and obviously my teammates in Binghamton. So just being a good influence and just being a positive influence on everybody. So that's what I've learned about myself.
No, that's a great answer and whatnot. When you were the captain, I think the final season with LVC, what did that mean to you to be the captain?
It was a great honor. Just being a captain at any level is such a privilege because not only is it great, on the jersey and all that, but that doesn't mean anything. It's more of just like you are the person that leads this group of men, this group of people, and you are the face of it, and that takes a lot of responsibility and commitment. So having that honor and privilege meant the world to me. Being able to lead those guys, lead those people that I've been with throughout the 4 years, and more importantly, just showing the young guys what it's going to take and what our standards are as a culture and what it's going to take to be a college hockey player.
Without a doubt. And you completed your 4 years, and then, of course, you got your master's in business administration. Can you talk a little bit about how hard it is to balance, hockey and school and just having a college life too, right? Because people don't realize that, you can have two things. You can have the sports side and then the academic side, but there also has to be that third side which gives you a little bit of the experience of being in college, right? What does that mean, Bob? Well, that means maybe going to a party or doing something within the school, like you said, that would maybe uplift somebody. There is that third aspect to that. How hard was it to balance those three sometimes?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was tough, and Yeah, let's see. When I was at a camp about 10 years ago. This was when I was going in my U14 season.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a camp, and there was some college coach or some pro executive that came and was speaking to us. He said, as a hockey player, until you give it up, if you go down the college road, pro road, you have three things. You have academics, hockey, and your social life.
Yeah.
He said, you have two things you can choose that you will excel at, whether that be the academics, the hockey, or the social life. And if you pick those two, whatever two they are, one's going to lack significantly. So that stuck in my head, and I still think about that this day. So going into college, I applied that. If I'm going to be doing the academics and hockey, the social life may not be there. And then the opposite, if I want to pick being, going out and doing stuff with the guys or being immersed in the school, doing stuff, doing events in hockey, the academics aren't going to be there. And let me tell you, that is the truth. There have been so many situations in the last 4 years where I was choosing two at the time, prioritizing two of those things at the time, and one was lacking. But as you mature and as you figure things out, you understand how to manage a schedule and how to manage everything, and being able to learn and understand how to do stuff and manage your time is just super important. But yeah, as the years went on, I'd say by my junior year and obviously my senior year, I figured out how to balance all three in a responsible way. So that was a challenge, but that's just part of living life and learning.
Yeah, it really is. How did you get hooked up with Binghamton? Who got you in touch with Coach Schwandt? What's the story there?
Yeah, so another situation where you just read the signs of the universe. So me and my coaches, we were reaching out to a whole bunch of teams in the pro ranks, and I got some looks and had some phone calls and stuff, and just nothing felt warm and fuzzy, and it just didn't feel confident was what was going on. So I reached out to my buddy Don Procopio, who plays in Huntsville for the Havoc, and him and I worked together in the summers. And I was like, hey, this is my situation. Obviously, I want to continue to play, and I just want to know if you can help me or if you have any guidance. And he was like, oh, actually, my roommate, Colin Fitzgerald, he just got sent to Binghamton and has nothing but good things to say. I know the coach, Brent Sherwood. Let me reach out and to see if there's anything for you. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And not even 30 minutes later, I get a text from Shearsy, and he's like, hey, I'd love to pitch Binghamton to you. When's a good time? And we had a good phone call. 2 days later, I said, yep, I want to do it. I didn't even tell my parents. It was just one of those things that felt right.
Yeah.
And I was in Binghamton 5, 6, 7 days later, and I called my parents, and they're like, oh, what's going on? What's the latest? And I'm like, oh, actually playing in Binghamton, New York now. So kind of all just happened in a couple, literally, like I said, 30, 45 minutes, and the rest is history. And it was unbelievable how that all shook out.
Yeah, what's funny too is and what some fans may start as they've been listening to this show. We interviewed Cam Clark and had him on. He was still going to school. He was actually coming in on the weekends to play hockey, and you were finishing up school. And it's crazy how you guys have to do that and then still play pro hockey and everything. But your first 11 games with the Black Bears, 7 goals, 4 assists, you started right off the bat, and just it almost seemed like you fit in comfortably into this team, in this element. What was it about this team that allowed you to kind of just mesh so easily?
I mean, just look at the players around this team. There's so many good players on this team. I always tell my parents this, the situation I was put in at any time, and how many ever games I played between regular season and postseason, like it was awesome. It was every single player from top down is so good, and being able to practice against those guys every day, just it made me so prepared for that first initial weekend, knowing like what to expect and kind of understanding the intricacies of how each player is and how they play on the ice. So, but I mean, just look at our roster, and each guy just has they're so skilled and just want to win and be a good teammate. And I think ultimately that drove me to, reach that standard. And fortunately, it worked out where we were able to be successful, and I was able to be a part of that.
And do you remember your first goal?
I believe that was in Watertown, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was like, I think it was just a little scramble in front, and puck was just sitting there, and just kind of tap it in.
Now, you did mention to me before we started recording that Cam Clark was a guy that you definitely kind of grew close with just because of, I guess, the similarities of your guys' situations, both finishing college and whatnot. But was there a guy on this team that kind of reached out to you and showed you the ropes a little bit, because it's obviously your first time playing pro hockey and everything, and some of these guys have been around a little bit and everything. But was there a guy that kind of like you initially spoke to, or they helped you out?
I think everyone was instrumental in just helping me transition into just being there, being part of the team, living away from, or obviously starting, unquote, a new life, because going from school and having that, and then going up to Binghamton, starting from scratch, not knowing a single person, being in a whole different living situation, and having to start a whole new regiment. I'd say everyone participated, or just had a little piece of helping me out and transitioning throughout that time. And it was one of those things where it didn't matter if it was, super big in terms of just helping me with, figuring out the social situation, or helping me just, with on-ice stuff. It was, everybody had a little part of it, or guys just make me laugh or feel part of the locker room. Like, everyone had a part of it. So I can't really attest to one particular person.
In our 6 more questions that we did at the end of the middle of last year to the end, one of the questions we did ask was, who was the funniest guy in the locker room? So for you, in that short period of time, who was the funniest guy in the locker room? I mean, because Dan Weber kept getting mentioned a lot by the guys and everything. Is that accurate? Is Dan Weber really that funny?
Yeah, Weebs is a funny dude. That guy, he can make anyone laugh, and he's one of the guys that I'd say initially helped me. But I mean, when it comes to what you asked, that guy is so funny. So I would stick with that answer.
Were you surprised on the amount of fans that were at the arena in Binghamton? I don't know how much you knew about Binghamton, the history of Binghamton, having hockey for 52 years and, winning the Calder Cup in 2011, the Broom Dusters being a part of that whole Slapshot era, which I'm sure you've seen the movie, so you know Slapshot and everything. Yep. How much did you know about Binghamton? Because when you came in and you saw, wait a second here, there's 4,800 people here for a Federal Prospects hockey game, it's probably pretty surprising and a little nerve-wracking a little bit for some of the newer guys that come in. So how much did you know about Binghamton coming in, and were you surprised about the amount of fan support?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew a little bit. My roommate at school, he actually played with Clarkie along the way in junior hockey, and he saw a story or something on social media that Clarkie posted, and when I signed, he kind of told me about it. I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. I didn't really know what to expect, and then that first game, being out there for warm-ups, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then just kind of seeing the attendance and the fan support grow throughout the springtime was just unbelievable. I mean, that final game when we played Carolina, I mean, that place was rocking. I had never been a part of something like that, and that was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen and have been a part of as a player. So, I mean, the hockey history, I knew a little bit about. You know, I'm a hockey nerd. You know, I just love the game, so I knew the Sens and the Devils had been there, at least in my time as a 25-year-old. So just kind of understanding that a little bit helped. But I knew it was a great hockey city, especially playing in New York and Syracuse before. So there was some sort of information there, but it was more of just kind of getting there and seeing it for myself. So it was awesome.
So your thought on, the playoffs, obviously Connor McAnanama, 7-0. The team is 7-0. Win the championship. There's the celebration a couple of days later. It must have been a whirlwind a little bit for you, being that you were also graduating from college at that same point and everything. But how exciting was it that your first touch with pro hockey ends up with a championship? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you can write the script any more perfect. It was I didn't expect that to happen whatsoever. You know, just signing with Binghamton, I knew we were very good, and we had a legitimate chance. And just talking with the coaching staff, with Jersey and kind of everybody from my initial first couple of weeks, that everyone was excited to get on with the season and then move on into the postseason. And you don't really think about it; you kind of just keep things in perspective. But I mean, what a way to go out and start my my pro hockey career, especially with this team and this group of guys. It's super special, and I'll forever cherish it.
Was it an easy decision to say to Jersey when he called you and said, "Hey, I want you to come back. I want you in camp. I want to see what we can do in a full season"? Was it an easy decision for you?
Absolutely. I mean, without hesitation. When we had our initial conversations, I was like, "Absolutely, this is where I want to be." And that was, it wasn't really long before I put, a yes to my name and coming back.
Yeah. If Jersey tomorrow said, and I know it won't be tomorrow, it would be sometime in camp, if he came to you and said, "Listen, I want you to wear a letter on your jersey, Tyson's going to be the captain again, but we want to put an A on your jersey. We think that you have what it takes to be a leader on this team." Is that an easy yes for you? Is that something that you're comfortable with, being that you've been a captain multiple times in your career?
It'd be, like I said, it'd be an honor and privilege, but I think if that were to happen, I'd actually turn it down.
Really?
Especially because guys have been there longer than me, and I think guys have put in their time as teammates and leaders there and worked on their leadership, and I don't think me as a person coming in only having less than 20 games and only being there throughout the spring would be a good fit as a leader on the team.
Well, see, now that's the reason why you should be you should have the A, because that's probably the most mature answer that somebody can give, and it's probably something that Jersey already knows. It's like, all right, I know what I'm getting with Blake Tosto and everything, even though he's only seen you in 17 games, right, and everything. I probably my favorite answer that you've given me today, because it shows a lot of maturity and a lot of understanding of how things work. And I'm not saying he's going to do that anyways, but you've got the experience. You've led men before. You've led people before, which is really good. What is your for this upcoming season? And I know you still got some training to do. You got to get ready for the upcoming season. But what's kind of like your goal for this upcoming season with the Black Bears?
Let's see. I would say just being a contributor every night. Doesn't matter if it's making plays, scoring goals, throwing hits, just being able to be a presence every night and just be the best player I can be. And that, like I said, that doesn't mean being the goal scorer, making the plays, making points. That's taking pride in the penalty kill, taking pride in, being in the right position on the ice, communicating well with my teammates, just being able to play the game the right way and making sure that I'm continuing to progress as a player and as a teammate. So I think a lot of it's still a learning process. So I'm not putting a whole bunch of just like, you need to be this, you need to be that, and if you don't do it, then it's a failure of a season. It's more of just learning and taking everything day by day, but just being a great teammate and just being able to contribute to our success on the ice and off the ice.
Awesome. Blake, have a great rest of the summer. We really appreciate you coming on here in the summertime. We'll get you back on again during the hockey season. We'll actually talk about games and X's and O's and, plays and stuff like that and everything. But it was great to have you on. I know the fans are going to love getting to know you. It's the best part of, me doing this kind of interview with sometimes the guys. And, people get to learn. L.A. basically said, hey, I listen to every show because I learned something new about my teammates. And that was great and everything. But thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your summer because you really got to enjoy some of the time off during hockey. I think you've learned that over the years and everything, just because it keeps that passion going.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. It's been fun. You as well. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll get back to work here in a couple weeks and looking forward to being back in Binghamton sooner than later.
Awesome. He is Blake Tosto. This is the Power Play Post Show. We'll be right back right after this. And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I want to thank everybody for listening to this week's show, and of course, this being the season 14 debut show. I want to thank everybody that came on the show. I'm very excited that you guys all got to just listen to 3 great interviews with 3 great people now associated with the Federal Prospects Hockey League, and of course, guest here on the Power Play Post Show. So let's just get through this. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show, whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. And again, thank you to getting over 500 members in that group. We really appreciate it. Hope to have more by the time the season starts. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And thank you so much to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, again, our musical director, and from the Danbury Hat, who signed a PTO, netminder Taylor Schwandt, and our good friend from the Black Bears, Brooks Hill, and from the Binghamton Black Bears, forward Blake Tosto. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show and making this all very successful. I really do appreciate it. I am Bob Howard, and thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Petitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.